So navigating complexity is less from I'm trying to understand all of this with my mind and make meaning with the patterns. It's more of but does it feel good? And if it feels good, does it come from me wanting to stay in my comfort cage? Or is this a real aliveness here? And that discernment that you understand, oh, this is my old trauma, I've integrated it, but this is an echo. Or this is really dangerous. We are one of the rare animals who at least have a clue how to handle it because we embody it enough, which means we can hold complexity in our system and alchemize it in a way that we don't get scared by the amount of information anymore. And if we are overwhelmed by the amount of information, we have our own, every one of us here has their practices how to handle complexity when it gets too much. We have all kinds of meaning making, embodiment, healing, let's say scaffolding, clustering, sorting practices, how we can make more sense for ourselves. But if I already kind of most of the time can do it, and if I can't, it will be delayed, but it will fall into place. So we're not struggling any longer for the navigation tools. We have our tools. We have like a navigation console, and we have the buttons, and we know which buttons to push when it's very foggy. But nobody understands what we're doing. And that's how how other people project a lot of stuff onto us. Simply because they don't understand how we see things. They don't get they never had this perspective. Embodied, neither cognitive. It's like they might have heard of it, but they've never felt it. And sometimes they have neither heard nor felt it. And then the problem that happens within our psyche is that we feel unrelatable, and we feel like the psyche, the small, tiny parts within us, they believe that something's fundamentally wrong with them because we are not relatable. So that's an existential right of being thing here happening in combination with the lack of meaning making. I can make meaning for myself, but I cannot yet make meaning for others with the way I handle things. And the issue with that is it makes us lonely, and it makes us questioning a lot of our former perspective. Because if we are more integrated human beings, we are no longer interested in just making meaning for ourselves. And this is why every single person in this space has this issue. Because it's not just it's not just about me making sense with myself, but I make sense with myself in a way the others don't get. And that's highly alienating. And there is a longing to belong in a way. That's why I always say, find the others. Where are the others who make sense like me? So the loneliness is not having us so much. That comes with being a highly integrated person. And this is how I would summarize the situation that you have described in like more or less variation. And it's a situation that I know very well, and it is a situation that everybody has when we shift into a new identity. So it's not even a thing that we have only if you're already very integrated human beings. But if you're social emotionally younger and we shift, we have the same situation because we believe that the arena that we are currently in, our environment, the people that we deal with every day, they don't get us anymore because we've outgrown them. And our mind still thinks this is the whole world. And now we have the same situation again, just the scope got a bit bigger. It's still not the whole world. It's just a larger part of the world, because culture is not catching up anymore. Earlier, it was just our personal culture, our bubble. And the moment we stepped out of the bubble, there was the next bubble and we got in. And if we apply that, it's still the same thing. It's just that the cultural bubble is ended, which means we have to find these subculture, tinier spaces where people gather who have also stepped beyond mainstream belief, and even beyond the avant-garde belief, or beyond the elite belief. It's beyond all of that. And this is why it feels, again, weird, scary, lonely, and it occupies a lot of our thinking space and emotional calibration space, because if it's our parents, it's already very challenging. Or like siblings or family, close friends, partners that don't get it. It's a little less challenging if it's our workplace. There might be another workplace. It's a little less challenging if it's our clients. We'll get other clients. But the closer you are, like family and friends and partners, if we have the issue there, then we're really challenged. So it's really not an issue of how developed we are yet. It's just the next layer of that. And it's more challenging because it's a bigger layer. Because it's not just my personal arena, it's actually the whole culture that we've outgrown. But we can source from the old situations where we outstepped arenas. It was never the end of the world. And it's now it's neither. I think this is what I would like to start with. It's just the next layer. We have done this before. We've created meaning for ourselves and then looked for mirrors in all kinds of relations. And we are still doing that. It's just a bigger challenge because it's less people that we align with. So how does the relationship to complexity and uncertainty change at more advanced stages? Well, the relationship to complexity changes as in it doesn't scare us so much anymore. I said it earlier. And we navigate more via our senses and not just with cognition. So we use our whole system to navigate. You know, the embodiment practice with the clipboard, standard. I think I do this 3 times a week with situations just to navigate more and more complexity. What it gives us, what we get out of that practice, that particular practice especially, is that we learn to trust our body as a navigation, a fantastic navigation tool, more and more. Because we have these 3 things that we understand, okay, this is the things that I need to get there. And then if I don't work these things one by one, it's almost like inevitable. You have to, because your body tells you. So navigating complexity is less from I'm trying to understand all of this with my mind and make meaning with the patterns. It's more of but does it feel good? And if it feels good, does it come from me wanting to stay in my comfort cage? Or is this a real aliveness here? And that discernment is a sign of more integrated stages, that you understand, oh, this is my old trauma, I've integrated it, but this is an echo. Or this is really dangerous because I'm not going to take one more step because there's a cliff and I don't want to fall. I get that this is dangerous. So the discernment between a trigger that is actually a real red flag or just my story catching up with me is more and more, we're more and more aware of it. And we can discern, there, right. No, I need to work on this. Or, ooh, that's a clear no. Or this is so strong, I need to go there. I can't not do this. And so this is how we navigate complexity. So first of all, we do it more and more via our bodies and via our whole beingness. And second of all, when we do it via our whole systems, we understand when this is actually a good idea and when it's not. So it's like the mind interacts, it's in coherence. And we understand if the coherence that our mind and our body do is actually off because it's old history. It's not the coherence that we want, it's low frequency. And then we have the mind staying online, aware enough that we say, hang on, so we can watch ourselves. And that this metacognition is a very clear sign of a more integrated stage. So this is how we handle it. And the same complexity, uncertainty is in the end the same. How do we hold and translate collective tensions and complexity into more aliveness within systems? Well, it's the same. I'm going to quote Daniel Schmackenberger here. I asked him when I first met him, Jeannie was with me. Everybody had these questions about, he just talked about the meta crisis and the 500 sub crisis and how this is entangled and the planetary boundaries. It's all very scary when you look at the facts. And it was like a 90 minutes keynote presentation with all the global issues nutshelled into 90 minutes. It was one glorious example of simplicity after complexity. And when I stepped up to speak with him afterwards, everybody could just approach him and people queued. We were in England. And I got it. I didn't get it immediately. And I just approached him and three other people were like, hey, and I was sorry. And when I finally stepped up, he laughed because he realized that I was the one who wanted to jump the queue. And I said to him, I just have a question about how you do it. Pretty much the exact same question. How do you do this kind of work and speak about this much super scary stuff? And I don't feel scared. And he said, well, first he smiled and he thought for a moment. And then he said, well, I just love life. And I think that's what you feel. You just feel that. And I think that's the only way of doing it. So not getting sucked into the fear is that's resilience. That means you can stay in strong connection without losing your center. It's not having a thick skin. It's being wide open and very connected, but very stable in your core identity. Whatever the core identity currently is, that is thresholding your essence. Your essence never changes. But your identity that you build around it protects that. So if we're in an identity shift, that's why we feel so wobbly. And that's why we have to find new ways to express. That's why the expression layer is after the identity shift. And often after the structural shift, or at least kind of weaving with that. And I think the aliveness, to hold the aliveness in the face of everything that's out there, is what we are doing. This is our training ground here. To enjoy this, to say, okay, life is great. That's why I call it the architecture of ease. And that's why I have this particular part in there, the architecture of joy. Nobody teaches us how to schedule joy into our lives other than in holidays and at the weekend. That's not enough. If we manage to have ease and joy the most time in life, while we are following our calling, nobody is going to question us because they will feel this person is happy, looks good, feels trustworthy, has everything that I would like to have. That's when people trust you and listen to you. It's not about being more clear and having the better pattern recognition method. And you know how deeply I love pattern recognition. But that's not the thing. The thing is embodying some kind of aliveness and joy that people actually see that this is a good idea. They sense it. And I think as a last anecdote, friend of mine sent me this a year ago. There is this old metaphor of a marshal hundreds of years ago, Napoleon's times. And he was always the one picked to lead people into battle. And at some point, he didn't get picked anymore. And he didn't understand why. And the reason why is because he could totally round people up and have the enthusiasm to lead on, but he didn't have the integrity and he couldn't create trust, which means people were following him initially, but then they were like, oh, now it gets, he didn't say it would be scary. He said it would be great to go into battle. It would be an adventure. I didn't know that I could die. And this is the thing. So if we're very alive, it can also be in the sense of very enthusiastic, but with no follow through, with no consistency, with no transparency, with no abilities to create trust, with no nervous system that is calm enough. And I think this is why it's so important to know how to create trust, because you need to have the aliveness that we're talking about. If you look at the patterns of distribution, is a result of being able to create trust. If we can't trust our own systems, if we can't trust ourselves always, that we will not abandon ourselves, that we will not trick ourselves, that we will not be strong and hard to ourselves, we will not discipline ourselves through some things, but we will always reconcile all the other parts. That's how you create trust. And if that is embodied, it quickly sparks into this aliveness, into this heart gravity that we love so much. And then people just believe you all the time, not just at the beginning. And I think that is a beautiful last thing I would like to add. Thank you.